Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, here to do a solo review for you guys, and this one is one I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, actually, since 2017. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get around to it until just now, but I'm glad I finally did, because I got to watch The Monster Project. It's available on Prime Video, so I watched it as soon as I noticed that. I'm sure it's been on there for a while, and I just got Prime Video recently, so I saw it was there, so I gave it a watch, and it's weird. I was looking online, and the reviews range from not great to so-so. And the 4.5 is, I think, the IMDb average as I review it here. But I enjoyed this movie. I had a good time with it. I'm kind of a sucker for found footage movies, so that might be part of it. But as far as found footage movies go, I know there are good ones, and I know there are bad ones. And this is one that I definitely err on the side of good for, because they don't shortchange you. That, to me, is one of the biggest shortcomings of found footage movies that are available, especially straight to DVD and VOD ones. Those tend to not show anything up until the last possible second, if at all. Frankenstein Theory comes to mind. Couple of other ones. The one that Bobcat Goldthwait did. Didn't show anything ever. One that was done pretty well was Exists. I did like that one. That was a Bigfoot one. But this one was found footage that had, I believe, an interesting story, at least a different sort of story for found footage. It was a guy comes back to LA and he plays Devin, played by Justin Bruning. The movie was directed by Victor Matthew. But yeah, Justin Bruning plays Devin, a guy that comes back to LA after some sort of extended absence, after leaving his life behind, to sort of find himself or whatnot. And he comes back and joins his friend Jamal, played by Jamal Kizair. I think that's how you'd say his name. I'm giving that a try. Jamal is the one that is behind the camera for a majority of the movie, and then other people start to come in with cameras and stuff, and then it shares duties. So it's a typical kind of setup, and when they come back, when Devin comes back, he talks to Jamal about his idea, where they notice that when they do these fake sort of setups where Jamal acts like he's actually running across these creatures, they have this whole thing. The whole opening scene is Jamal with a camera. It introduces you right away to the found footage aspect, where the guy's like, what's going on? And he hears stuff, and he's looking around, and he climbs up to the roof via a ladder, and then he sees this wolf creature on the roof, and it looks over at him, and he falls off the roof. And then the wolf creature climbs down the ladder, and it's his friend Devin, who takes off a mask, and it's like, dude, you missed the safety pad. You were supposed to land on that. And so it right away, it kind of draws you into the character dynamic. So they're going to try and they make these videos, and they go and put them on YouTube, and they almost immediately have almost 300,000 views on this thing. And they're like, you know what? We need to just do a movie. And Devin is like, okay, well, the idea is we'll do, the name comes up somehow. I think Jamal might have named it, but whatever. They call it The Monster Project. And the plan is to put out a Craigslist ad where they ask for real monsters in the LA area to respond in order to be interviewed. They're looking for a demon, they're looking for a vampire, and they're looking for a skinwalker. And they get, people. I'm not sure if they actually are seeking out those specific things, but they put an ad out for creatures, and that's what they get back. One of each of those things respond back, and the vampire supposedly requests a vial of blood in order to be interviewed. The demon gets brought in, and then the skinwalker sort of reluctantly gets on camera but wants to tell his story. So it becomes sort of like a Ghost Adventures kind of thing, a Grave Encounters, if you will, which I liked the Grave Encounters movies, as cheesy as they kind of were. This is sort of similar fun, if you will, because now we get to interview 3 people that claim to be these creatures, even though they're not outwardly exhibiting the signs. The skinwalker decides to hide his identity, so there's a voice mixer on him, and he's in the shadows. But what he says is actually really cool dialogue. So that makes it very, intriguing. I wanted to keep watching. I wanted to see what was going to happen. Everyone represented what they were, and it's like, okay, so what's going to happen? Something's going to go wrong, and they're all going to turn into these things, right? And yes, that's what happens. Something goes wrong, and in fact, they do turn into these things, and it makes for a really cool play out. It's very in line with your Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon type movies, where it's a found footage thing where the crew is following a guy claiming to be a serial killer, and then the back half of the movie is him hunting them down. God damn it. Alright, enough. And the back half of the movie is him hunting them down. So this one stays found footage the whole time, but it's got that similar sort of through line. They interview these people, and then something goes wrong, and these things emerge, and the crew has to try and survive. And there's, twists at the end that were satisfying to me, if predictable. But what really struck me about this is the investment in it. There was a lot of digital effects, and some of them weren't the best digital effects, specifically regarding the demoness, or the demon possessing the girl, Shiori. The Shiori did a good job, but whenever they demonized her, it was like a standard sort of elongated jaw digital effect that we've seen a bunch of times, except when we've seen it before, it's so quick that you can't focus on it enough to see the flaws. Both fortunately and unfortunately, they show it a lot, and so if you're the kind of person that wants to see that effect for a long time, congratulations, you get it. But if you're also the kind of person that can pick apart those effects with extended exposure, then unfortunately there's that to deal with. But it was still entertaining. They did a good job with those effects, even if they didn't look fully up to, Hollywood standards. Still more than passable. And then there was actual practical effects too. The skinwalker that turns into a wolf played for a lot of tension and looked really cool up close. And then the vampire, when she finally sort of went feral, she looked really cool too. They did a really cool effect with her lunging at the camera, and it looked really neat. I was like, ooh, like there was a few times that I was like legitimately nervous and on the edge of my seat. And, I don't know, again, these reviews are leading me to believe that some people didn't like this, or more people didn't like this than I would have guessed. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm a creature movie fan, and this delivered on a bunch of different levels. It delivered on the practical sort of, transformation skinwalker level. It delivered on the, creepy, pale-eyed, not quite standard, but multiple sharp teeth vampire look. Looked cool. And then the demoness, she was definitely workable too. I mean, they focused on her a lot, so you could pick apart a lot towards the end, but they were all really interesting to watch, and it was fun to see the way this story played out, as not only a horror fan, but as a found footage fan. This story was intriguing enough that I was like, yeah, I'm on board. It's one of the only movies that I've legitimately sat and watched from beginning to end in recent times. I'm always so busy doing stuff with the show, or doing this and doing that I have to watch things in like 30 to 45 minute chunks, and just get it done when I can. But this one I just sat on the couch and laid back and watched the whole thing through because I didn't want to take a break from it. It's my kind of found footage movie, which found footage is a subgenre that I really enjoy out of the horror genre. So if you guys don't like found footage, this one might not change your mind. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe if the reason you don't like found footage is because they never show you enough in found footage, then this will sort of sway you, because this is one that shows you plenty of the creatures, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's perfectly serviceable. The digital effects get a little over the top towards the end, but outside of that, it's just a really enjoyable found footage horror movie that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, quite honestly. So if you haven't seen it yet, give it a try. Again, it's on Prime. It's worth your time. If nothing else, it's just fun. It's a fun watch because it's consistently thrilling, and there's 3 different horror monsters you get to track in the movie. And that's reason enough for me. Why they all exist in the same universe, who cares? They don't even bother addressing it. but it's still interesting because, again, the first part is the crew interviewing each of these things about what they are. And so it's like that part's intriguing. The whole setup is intriguing because it's like, ooh, like they're literally interviewing a vampire about what it's like to be a vampire, a skinwalker about what it's like to be a skinwalker, and a girl possessed about what it's like to be possessed. It's really interesting, that first half, and then boom, the movie changes, and then they're all free to go, and then it's a really good one of those movies. So these people are either they're just overly critical of films like this that are giving it the low ratings, or I don't know why it has this average on IMDb. I would have given this at least, I would personally give it an 8 out of 10 as far as found footage movies go. Overall, maybe a 7 out of 10, but that's still very good in my opinion. I don't know, 7.5. I wouldn't go below a 7.5, quite honestly, on this one. But so yeah, I don't understand what's going on the internet ratings on it. Don't trust those. Trust me if you're a creature movie fan and if you're okay with found footage. You don't have to love found footage, but if you're at least okay with it, this is a good example of one of those. So give it a try. It's called The Monster Project. Again, directed by Victor Matthew, or Matthew. I believe it's Matthew. I don't know. Doesn't have, pronunciations on here, so I'm giving it my best shot. But it's a great movie, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it, so I think you guys should give it a try. Thanks very much for watching. If you have seen it, you know what? I'm not going to go right into it. Just to touch on each of the things that we normally do in the review, it's a found footage movie, so the directing can be a little off. Sometimes it's a little too close to faces. Sometimes it has some weird kind of editing that you kind of have to just let go in order to still follow the movie or whatever, but it wasn't super distracting or anything like that. The acting, there are, some performances are better than others. The guy that plays Brian, who is a recovering drug addict that's sort of brought into the crew, played by Toby Hemingway. He did a pretty good job, but he has some scenes that I don't know, like he swung, he was like a roller coaster. He had these extremes. He came off as a very kind of low energy guy, but then when things went wrong, the energy ramped up right away, and it was a little off balance. Muriel Zucker plays Muriel. There were a few people that played their name and their real name in the movie, but at least the first name. But she did a good job. She was an ex of Devin that is brought back into the fold as the director of the project. So everyone has a role, but again, some I don't think that Jamal was the strongest. I think the other three were a bit stronger. He was largely just a voice behind the camera, and it just wasn't the most unique. It was, a bit of a stereotypical representation at times, but outside of that, I had a good time. I thought all of the people that played the creatures did a good job. I enjoyed all of them, and they were the ones that were most important to me. And again, I touched on the effects. The practical was really, it was frightening when it was there. The way they did it, the found footage part that was cool, there was one part where a guy has, a camera on his forehead, and he's being pulled on the ground backwards as the wolf is coming at him, and he's shooting it, and the wolf is just kind of barreling through the shots. And it is an unnerving scene because the thing is right coming at you the whole time from the POV of the guy shooting, and it felt kind of video gamey at times, but not in a bad, distracting way. It was just an interesting way to present a found footage movie that not a lot of people have tried. So I think there you go. That's little snippets of the rest of it. No music to be had. Again, it's found footage, so not a lot of scores in found footage movies. But the sound design was fun because they had to play with the location of characters and things like that. So again, The Monster Project was enjoyable. Give it a try, you guys. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments down below what you thought. If you haven't seen it, let me know in the comments down below if you're gonna see it now, or if it's still why you're not going to see it, despite my glowing review here. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.